Hey guys, so I'm here. We're going to put the engine harness on right now. But first, we can talk about wiring the E36 V8 swap for a bit. So when you look inside this engine bay, it looks like it's absolutely filled with wires. And it's because the motor is running off Mega Squirt, but that's hooked up to a Ford EEC connector and a Ford, like a full car harness from a Ford Mustang. Then that harness is tied into the E36 harness. So when you look inside the engine bay, it's basically got two harnesses inside it. So there's wires pretty much everywhere, which kind of stinks. But at this point, you get in the car, you turn the key, the car starts, and everything works and runs. So it's a real big leap of faith to start cutting out all the connectors and stuff that aren't actually hooked up. Because I've got tons of redundant connectors that aren't actually going anywhere. But I don't want to start cutting things out and have all of a sudden my car not work. So I'll show you it now, but there are wires all over the place. And what we're going to do now is take the actual motor harness, put the motor harness and all the sensors on, and then hook that into the Ford Mustang harness. I'm going to try and wear a head cam for this, so you can kind of see me looking around the engine bay and stuff. And I'll show you some of the wiring right now. So, as you can see, there's wires just everywhere. And it's because it's all the wiring for the swap plus multiple car harnesses just to make this work. The Mega Squirt ECUs behind this piece of plastic, I have like a whole bunch of eggshell foam in there, and it's cushioning the ECU. That's the vacuum tube for it. So yeah, I've got the harness over on my workbench. Alright, so here is the harness for the motor. So you can see how it's zip tied to this tube. But here are the injectors. I'm actually not sure what most of these go to when they're not in the car. When they're in the car, it's obvious because, you know, the connector with the right inputs is near it. But yeah, there's the engine harness. So just going to cut off this bypass tube, because as you can see, I just had a hoop on the end of it anyways, back when the car was naturally aspirated. Alright, so I'm going to take this off. It's just a flathead, although I guess you could use like an 8mm, because I believe this is actually an old BMW hose clamp. This BMW has a whole bunch of those. This one would be 5/16. Tube's probably going to be a pain to get off. Probably end up cutting it with the cutters I used to use on the zip ties, but we'll see. There we go. Got the engine harness. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is take off my intake. I'm just going to lay it over because throttle cable's attached and that was a bit of a pain to get on. So I'll fold it over like that, put all the injectors on, do what I need to do behind that, and then I will put it back on. Big white and black, go over to the big white and black. Then you have a whole bunch of injector clips. Alright, clicking in the other bank of injectors. Yep, okay, so all the fuel injectors are hooked up, which, by the way, I'm running a Trick Flow 72 pound/hour injectors, which they should be good for whatever I'm going to make, at least for a bit. They at least take the injectors and the fuel pump. I think the fuel pump is going to need more before the injectors need to be upgraded, which the fuel pump's a GS 420 or 380, something like that. It's a 400 liter per hour Walbro, and I'll show you how that is in the tank at some point. Alright, so now the injectors and stuff are in place, I'm going to put the intake back on. I'm going to use actually waterproof heat shrinkable crimp connectors. They have a copper core. They work really well. So this goes in there. TPMS sensor. I have to zip tie that together because the connector's broken. It's an issue with a car of this age, like all of these sensors and stuff, or not the sensors, but the clips and all the connectors on the harnesses, they get really fragile. Like, I actually, while I had the camera paused, I broke one of the clips off the side of an injector just because it was grabbing a little loose. I gave it a little squeeze just to kind of tighten up the plug itself, and I snapped one of the sides off. So, the fun of project cars. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to extend this and extend this. So this is the idle control valve, plugs into here. I'm going to cut that right now. Cut right there, I'm going to cut here. I'm going to cut out the patch. It's always good to have as few as you can in line. So that's cut out, idle control valve. Yep, okay. And then that, I believe, is back here, which would be not that one, but where is it? I believe it's that one. So I'm going to cut that as well. Now, I'm going to use crimp connectors and a proper crimper. This is a coolant temp. Pushes right onto a little post that's down there. I don't know if you guys can really see that well. This is something else. Maybe oil pressure. Yeah, because the oil pressure tap used to be down there. This is the old oil pressure. We don't care about that anymore. I went and got the heat shrink. So for the TPMS sensor, I use this green wire. You can make the side with the writing be red. The side with no writing is going to be the black. Find a connector that seems like it's got a good sized barrel. Okay, put that to black. Proper crimping tool. It's got the tooth in it, so it indents the actual barrel for you. Push your ends in and crimp. There you go. No movement in it. Now normally it would just be done at that, but with the shrinking ones, alright, normally I prefer the lighter to a heat gun. It's quicker and easier, but normally I also grab a lighter that isn't dead, apparently. So for the other side, I'm going to use this. I really like using this type of wire for stuff just because it comes up to 4 all held together and it's color coded for you. So for individual jobs, it's awesome. I mean, you can see it all around the car just because if you have up to 4 wires, you need to keep track of. You feed some of this, you're good to go. And I'm going to do the rest of it in fast. got both these extended. You can see there's the idle air control. There's the throttle position sensor. All that's really left on the harness is one of these is a temperature sensor that goes into right here, but that plug is still on the bypass tubes, and I'm going to have to get a bushing to bushing that down. And then over on this side, I had a coolant sensor right here. That just goes in on a little plug that's hidden under the fuel rail. And that is it. Any other plugs that are on this harness are no longer used for what I've got going on here. That's pretty much going to be it. Just got the engine harness on for now.